Hello everybody and welcome to your 28th Allegro 5 tutorial. So in this tutorial we're going to be learning about screen scrolling, and this is an exciting topic that everybody loves, right? And for those of you who probably watch other screen scrolling tutorials on Allegro 5, I've searched up other tutorials on the internet, and I'm going to be showing you the proper way that was that it was made for in Allegro 5, right? With the proper Allegro 5 functions and variable types. And there's always, like, as a programmer, it's a good thing to know different methods to do different things, because maybe some other APIs might not have the functionality Allegro 5 has, and so you're going to have to use a different method. But I'm going to be showing you how to handle screen scrolling the Allegro 5 way. And for the Allegro 4 users, it is different than Allegro 4, so pay attention. Now, before we start, I've been kind of lazy with destroying the bitmaps and stuff, so don't be afraid to destroy the bitmaps. It's really good to destroy them, especially even when you're running your program. Destroy them, not just after. If you're not using them in your program anymore, just destroy them, right? And if you really need them again, then you recreate them. But anyways, to start off this tutorial, we're gonna load in a background image, and the background image is just gonna be there to visually mark the screen scrolling in action, and we're gonna draw it before we draw our player to the screen. Okay, so once we do that, what we want to do is we want to create a float variable called camera position, and it's going to be an array, and it's an array of 2, so we're going to put 0, 0. So the first element is going to specify camera position X and camera position Y. So if you want to do that for the player position, go ahead, you can make a float called player position and have it in an array of 2 and just do it this way. I'm just doing it this way to show you guys alternate methods on how to do different things. So if we go to the top of here, I'll just name this camera update. And here we're going to take the camera position, and we're going to take the X. Oh, and don't forget to make this float, because the camera position's float. Get the Y, we get the width of the player and the height of the player. Okay, so first of all, the camera position is going to specify what should be shown on the screen at a certain time. So if it's showing the beginning of the map, then we're gonna show it from 0 to the screen width, and same for the screen height. And then when we scroll through the game screen, we need to set where we should start drawing from, and then we'll get to know where we end drawing from. So this is how we set up where we start drawing from. So we do camera position 0, which is X, is going to be equal to negative screen width divided by 2, so that's half of the screen, plus X, and camera position 1 is equal to negative screen height divided by 2 plus Y. Now this is why it's a good thing to have a screen width and screen height defined, because if you modify the screen width and screen height, it will automatically change the camera update code, it will automatically change the display size, it will automatically change everything that requires the screen width and screen height, instead of you having to individually change these values every single time you change something. So it should be plus X plus width, and I'll explain this stuff when I'm done this, and a Y plus height. And then after that, we want to have two if statements, okay? We want to say if camera position 0 is less than 0, then we set it equal to 0. And don't do else if, just put another if statement, camera position 1 less than 0, then camera position 1 is equal to 0. Okay, so let's look at this right now, okay? We want to start scrolling when the center of the player reaches the center of the screen, whether horizontally or vertically. We know, oh yeah, it should be width divided by 2. Yeah. plus width divided by 2 plus height divided by 2. According to, with bed mass, it will, or whatever, it will divide this first and then add after. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to say that when the center of the player hits the center of the screen vertically or horizontally, that's when we start scrolling. So if we look at this, right, our screen width is 800, right? So 800 divided by 2 is 400, and that's negative, right? So it's negative 400. So if our x position is equal to 300 and 300 plus 16, which will be width divided by 2, so if it's at the coordinate 316, therefore 300, like negative 400 plus 316 is still less than 0. So if it's less than 0, then we want to set it to 0. And for both, this should be 1, sorry. And for both of them could be less than 0 at the same time. That's why we don't have an else if statement. So we basically want to set drawing the map 0 start drawing at the coordinate 0. If the player is not the center of the screen. Once a player passes the center of the screen, that's when we start scrolling the game elements. And I'll show you how to do so in a second. So a lot of tutorials I've seen on the internet, they use like X offsets and Y offsets and stuff to modify game elements and stuff like that. The problem is that if you have an X and Y offset, you're going to have to apply that to every single object in your game. And that could be easily done using methods or functions. It doesn't really matter, but there is a built-in variable type or something, or class, that you can use to transform everything in your game world uniformly, right? And this is a very useful function or useful thing to use. So we use Allegro transform and we'll name it camera. It's not a pointer to it, just regular. And this function, there's variable type is in the regular Allegro 5.h, so you don't have to include anything else. So once we have that, what we're gonna do since our camera position is relative to the player's input, then in our regular timer, we're just gonna put camera position, and we're going to camera update. Sorry. And then we put in our camera position, our player's X position, Y position, width, and height. Okay, so that's going to update our camera position. Since we did the pointer to the camera position, it's going to update the camera's position accordingly. So what we want to do is we want to do AL identity transform. And we put an ampersand, and what this does is that it lets us know the main transformation matrix we're going to be utilizing in our program. So you have to do this before you do any single transformations, or it is going to apply that to the default transform. I don't know if you can get the default transform. I never checked that, but you can check that in the Allegro 5 documentation. So once we do that, then we're gonna do AL translate transform. So we put in our camera in there, and we said how we want to translate the game element. So if you've learned math, whatever translation is what we're gonna use to move all the game elements, right? So once we want to move it by the negative camera position, right? The reason why is because whenever we move the player to the right of the game screen, we want to move everything towards the left, so it looks like the player is scrolling towards the left of the screen. So we say negative camera position 0 and negative camera position 1. Okay, so that's going to translate everything in the game elements to the right position, and then after that we do AL use transform, and we put in the identity that we specified over there, and we state that we're going to be using it. Okay, so then if we had to run this program, let's see what we get. So we have our this is our background. This is not the game window, so you guys don't get confused. This is not the game window. This is just a picture I took. So this is our background picture. So nothing happens when we're moving around. Once the center of our player is the center of the screen, and then the background starts to move, right? And in reality, you know how we said all the game elements are moving, and it moves vertically too. But you know how we said all the game elements are moving? You might be saying, okay, why isn't the player moving as well? Well, if we look at it, the player is indeed moving. If the player wasn't moving, the player would be heading towards the right side of the screen. What's happening is that the player is moving forward, it's moving towards a move speed, but then the camera is the translation is then moving the player back, because of the camera's position, and therefore the player is centered on the screen. So therefore, everything in your game translates, and then your player, it looks like your player is walking through the game world. So that is it for this tutorial. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and bye.